everyone. We're officially at 2 o'clock, so if you could stand and join us in invocation. I ask Chaplain Morgan Medford. We're getting all kind of accumulating here. I'd like to wish everybody a happy Father's Day, all of you and those out in the audience. And hopefully you all had a great day, and all the guys were pampered for our 1 day a year.
Excellent. Well, let's go to the Lord, boys and girls. Our most gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for the beauty and majesty that we see everywhere in your creation. Lord, thank you for the opportunity to care for the world that you've made for us. And we ask that your blessing would rest on every person here today and that you would give each of us great vision and enthusiasm for our work. Lord, please bless the opportunities of our hands and minds and the bonds between us and the influence of our work in this location and beyond. Lord, as we plan and share together now, may you guide us by your glorious Spirit and lead us in doing this work for your glory and our joy. Lord, we pray this meeting brings you glory and honor. We ask it in your precious name. Amen.
Please join me in a pledge of allegiance. Well, I call this meeting of the Sarasota County Public Hospital Board to order. I need to read a public comment statement to kick this off. Any citizen desiring to address the hospital board should turn in a speaker card to the board secretary. If the citizen's comment pertains to an item on the agenda today, the comment will be heard early in this meeting. Otherwise, it will be heard towards the end. Speakers are asked to limit their comment to 5 minutes. Vendors, suppliers, or other persons seeking hospital contracts awarded on a competitive basis are reminded that their ability to address the board may be restricted by the terms of the invitation for bid, request for proposal, or other purchasing criteria. Lastly, the board has established a claims adjustment review panel comprised of representatives of the board, the medical staff, administration, and legal counsel to review and negotiate the settlement of the claims. Accordingly, the board will not entertain comments or discussion or negotiate claims at this meeting. Okay, thank you. All right, approval of the orders of the day.
Mr. Chairman, I approve the orders of the, I move the approval of the orders of the day.
We have a second. We have a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. All righty, thank you. Next, I'd ask for a motion to approve the minutes of the meeting of May 21st.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the minutes of our last meeting.
Second.
Hearing no discussion, all those in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. All right. We don't have any board reports today, so I would ask Dr. Garner to introduce our speaker today.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to introduce Dr. Kenneth Vivas. He is a neurosurgeon here at Sarasota Memorial. He's been here since 2014, and he graduated from Yale, where he completed his medical school internship and residency. He is...
Thank you.
He is a fellow in the American College of Surgeons, as well as multitude of other specialty-focused societies. He is currently the director of advanced neurosurgery at Sarasota Memorial, and he's going to give us a presentation about deep brain stimulation and its use in the treatment of a multitude of neurological disorders.
Thank you very much, and thank you all for the opportunity to come and speak with you this afternoon.
Glad to have you.
I'm sorry?
I said glad to have you.
Oh, thank you. So deep brain stimulation, this is a therapy that I have great passion for. This is the main reason I came to Sarasota at all. I was recruited here to restart a program here that had kind of gone by the wayside, and I am so happy to be here to talk to you about what I've been able to achieve with your help and the hospital's help and the multitude of other physicians' help to offer this therapy for patients here in Sarasota in the greater Sarasota County. So what is deep brain stimulation? It sounds a little bit like a scary thing, I think, to some patients, but it's electrical stimulation to different structures deep inside the brain. And it's usually a low amount of stimulation, about 1 to 4 volts, and it's through different contacts that in a very specific structure that we target. The particular device that we use, we can program through the skin, so we can change what's happening with stimulation for different patients depending on how they're doing and what's going on with their disease. And this ability to be able to alter what we're doing over time provides a great advantage for patients so that we can keep up with their disease or side effects or other things going on. It consists of this probe that's down in the specific target of the brain, and then it's hooked up through a wire that goes underneath the skin all the way down here. And typically just below the collarbone, there is a generator, and that's where we can program it, and that's where it takes its power from. And we target different areas of the brain depending on the disease. And most of the time today, the short amount of time I have with you, I'll be talking about Parkinson's disease, but it's also approved for essential tremor, epilepsy, and then there are a couple of experimental approvals to use this device for other diseases. So how does this work? How does deep brain stimulation actually change a patient's brain's behavior, and how does it affect their disease? So, if we look at a very microcellular level, we have this a probe in, and we make one contact positive and maybe the generator, the negative, or we use a mixture of these different contacts. And there's a mixture of excitation and inhibition of the neurons, the nerve cells that are right around it. All of our nervous systems are powered by electricity in the form of ion gradients that change over time. And so by altering these ion gradients with electrical stimulation, we actually change the behavior of those local neurons. But it's very difficult to understand that, right at that microcellular level. And so what we really typically look at is how does the whole network of neurons get changed over time with electrical stimulation. So for instance, in Parkinson's disease, there's a profound loss of a specific type of neuron, a nerve cell called dopamine-secreting nerve cells, and they're largely in the substantia nigra. So once those cells are lost, other areas of the brain, such as the striatum and the globus pallidus, they get into a state where they're not functioning correctly. And so if we look up at the top here, normally if we look at the firing pattern of these neurons, they kind of have this relatively random looking firing pattern. But in Parkinson's disease, with the loss of input of these dopaminergic neurons, we get this abnormal firing pattern. And what I like to tell patients, it's as though your clutch isn't working properly in your car. And so patients with Parkinson's have difficulty switching between different states. So they're standing still, and then they want to move, and they can't initiate movement, and because their clutch doesn't work properly, or the clutch stutters, and so the patient ends up with tremors, and so a whole bunch of different behaviors can be explained with this analogy. But what we see happens is that by giving electrical stimulation into this very specific area of the brain, the subthalamic nucleus, we can kind of fix their clutch somewhat, and we can allow them to change from one state to another state so that they can initiate movement, or that they have smoother movement and without any tremors. So how do we go about actually performing this surgery? How do we get this very critical piece of technology deep inside a patient's brain? Well, first of all, we have to think about the patient and who is the proper patient for this. We really don't offer this to patients that haven't been tried on medicines, and so patients need to be medically refractory or potentially have dose-limiting side effects from their medicines. Patients with Parkinson's and their medicine, it's a very difficult time. It's a very difficult life because they have ups and downs every single day. They take their medicine, they have too much movement. They go through a golden period where they have good movement, and then they have too little movement, and then they take their next dose. And many patients are taking their medicine 5-7 times a day and going through this cycle over and over again. So if we find a patient that's suffering from those problems, usually a managing neurologist brings them in and sends them into me, and I screen them through different techniques to make sure that they're good candidates for surgery. And if all of that works out, we take them for an electrode placement. The first part of the surgery is done with the patient with just local anesthesia, and this frame is attached to the patient's head. This frame allows me to establish a coordinate system along with their imaging and their MRI scans so that I can locate these areas deep inside the brain during the surgery. Once we place the frame, we then do a CT scan that allows us to merge these images, and then we bring up the patient and we get them positioned on the operating room table, and I attach the rest of this ARC system, and then we have a micro drive that's loaded onto this frame, And this lowers a very, very fine electrode down into the brain so that we can do two things. We can listen to the firing pattern of the cells of the brain, and we can do test stimulation. So this can lower it as little as a half a millimeter at a time, and we look through the different parts of the brain, and there's very typical firing patterns for different neurons in different parts of the brain, and that allows us to ensure that we're in an optimal area beyond what our imaging can accomplish. If everything looks like it's appropriate, then we can switch over and do some test stimulation and see if we can relieve the patient's symptoms right there in the operating room. If everything there looks good, then we take out this very fine electrode and we insert the permanent electrode and we anchor it into place. Patients stay just overnight after the procedure and they go home the following day. And then they come back as an outpatient for placement of the wire and the generator. Why do we break it up into two different parts? Mainly for Parkinson's disease is because the longer you stay in the hospital, the longer you stay in the hospital. Because patients that are taken outside of their environment, they don't do well in the hospital, and they kind of deteriorate while they're with us because it's just not their kind of familiar environment. So it's really designed to minimize the amount of time that the patients are in the hospital. There are some risks associated with the procedure, bleeding, infection, but these are very low rates. And in general, even if we have these kinds of problems, patients can get through it very quickly. This is just an example of showing you how things look in the operating room as we're recording, and we actually listen to the firing patterns as well. So different nerve layers, as we lower the electrode through the brain, have different signatures, and this allows us to identify where we are within the brain. How well does this work? Well, it's very complicated to tell you exactly, with different scores in Parkinson's disease. But in this particular graph, we look at patients, and 49% of their time was spent on with dyskinesias, which is not a good state. They're able to move, but they're moving too much. And only 27% of the time is on without dyskinesias. That's the desired state. And after DBS, we see that patients then go from 27 to 74% of their day on with dyskinesias, and we reduce the amount of time that they're on with dyskinesias down to 19%. So a significant improvement in their overall condition. When we talk about why is this important to have here in Sarasota, it's really because if we look at the Parkinson's population, and if we look at the graph here, we can see that there are a lot of Parkinson's patients here in Sarasota County. It's important to have this, and it's very difficult for these patients to travel to other places to have this kind of surgery done. There are other indications, as I said, essential tremor and epilepsy are other indications. These are also relatively common in the population, and being able to offer this therapy to patients here, I think, is a wonderful thing. So we did our first case in January 2016, and it's actually, we're up to almost 40 cases now that we've done. It seems like a small number of patients, but it's actually, we look at big centers doing this. I came from Yale. We were in the top 10% of the country, and we were doing 50 cases a year. And I think that we've done very well here in 2.5 years getting this many cases done, and we're only seeing further growth. We have patients coming mostly from Sarasota, but we have a large referral coming down from Bradenton and a small amount coming up from Port Charlotte. We do have competition in the area to do these cases in Tampa and Fort Myers, but as I said, even patients here in Sarasota, they don't want to go to Tampa. They don't want to go to Fort Myers. They want to stay here. And I'm hoping that with the new hospital that's being opened, that provides another opportunity to provide patients with more local care to be able to provide this service to them. Some of the hurdles with us offering this is awareness. I'm kind of actively out there and a couple of times or 3 or 4 times a year doing education seminars for physicians and for patients. The travel in and of itself is a problem somewhat as we get to the further reaches of here for patients wanting to come in to see us. And then there's some issues with availability in the operating room, which we're working on overcoming. So I really, again, thank the board, thank Sarasota Memorial Hospital for having me come down here to do this. I think that this is something that I just look at the lives that we're able to change and the disease and how it changes what a patient experiences on a daily basis by doing this therapy. And we've been able to improve so many lives, and I just hope that we can continue to do that. Thank you for your time.
Any questions? Go ahead. Jen.
So, Doctor, I mentioned to you before, my brother has Parkinson's for 15 years. So the percentage, if I do the math right, it looks like maybe only 1% or so of Parkinson's patients are candidates or actually go through deep brain.
So let me just get back to that slide for you. So it's 1.6% of the population, but about half of the patients actually end up having refractory symptoms, and somewhere about half to two-thirds of those ever see a surgeon and are entertained for surgery.
So is there potential there for the number of patients to?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And the key is awareness of the therapy. I mean, that's the most shocking thing to me is when I go out and I meet primary care physicians or other neurologists that don't do movement disorders in the community, and they're like, I didn't realize that you were offering this at Sarasota Memorial Hospital. And that's why I'm out there, trying to do these educational seminars, make sure that people know this was most of it was developed in academic centers. But being able to do this here in the community, it's just such an advantage for the patients that live here locally.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Doctor.
I apologize, I went a little over.
No, no,
Sorry.
you did fine. Thank you. All right, David, you have the Excel Award for this month.
Thank you. We have our Excel Award winner for June of 2018, Pamela Lewis. Pamela, can you come join me? I'm gonna say some good things about you.
Okay, you have
All
to?
right. Oh, it's hard to find anything but. Here, come stand up here.
All right.
All right. So Pamela Lewis is our June Excel Award winner. A registered pharmacist, she is a pharmaceutical care specialist in the pharmacy department and has worked at Sarasota Memorial since 1987. Pam's coworkers all agree she's a dedicated team player. She is respected within her own department among those she interacts with throughout the hospital. Pam works to implement practices that improve our culture of safe patient care. She serves as an educational resource for pharmacy students, medical residents, and nursing orientations, and other opportunities where she can share her knowledge and experience. Keeping patients safe is Pam's #1 priority, her coworkers say. She always steps up and follows through with a smile and a positive attitude. Pam is a great example for aspiring pharmacists. Pam, thank you so much for everything that you do.
Thank you, I
Okay?
appreciate it.
But I have to read this first.
Okay.
Make sure I can read. Anyway, so Pam, on behalf of the board and the administrative staff, it's a pleasure to present this plaque to you. Excel recipients are employees who are models of excellence and consistently demonstrate the mission, vision, and values of our organization. They are superior performers that make an extra effort in the quality and care of our patients and families in the community. Hospital board and administrative staff of Sarasota Memorial Healthcare System recognizes Pamela Lewis with the Excel Award for the month of June 2018, signed by David Verinder, our president, and our distinguished chairman, Joe DiVirgilio, as chairman. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you so
You get
much.
a handshake, too.
Thank you very much. It's quite an honor. I'm really overwhelmed by it all, and I just want to say thank you so much. I've been here quite a long time, and it's a wonderful place to work, and I'm in a great department. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the people I work with and this institution. So thank you for this honor. I appreciate it. You take it back and give it back to me later?
I'm going to take it back. I'm going to make you come get it in management council so
Okay.
we can recognize you. I am
All
going
right.
to leave you with this,
All right.
though.
Well, thank you.
And congratulations.
Thank you. Thank
Okay.
you again.
Thank
I
you so
appreciate it so much.
All right.
Thanks.
All right, David, you have the Leadership Award for the second quarter.
I do. And I would like to invite Joan Moser to come up here. Joan? How you doing, Joan? I like your dragonfly. It's your husband?
My husband gave it to me.
Oh, okay. Well, it's different the way you said it that time. Okay. So, Joan Moser is our Leadership Award winner for second quarter 2018. Joan is clinical manager of the Northport ECC and has been at Sarasota Memorial since 2014. Joan's peers describe her as an excellent, proactive leader who is an advocate for her staff, department, and patients. Employee satisfaction scores at the Northport ECC consistently reflect this, says her staff. Our department is engaged and happy, and it shows, says a coworker. Joan has created an environment of trust, respect, and compassion, says another. Does employee satisfaction have an impact on patient satisfaction? The Northport EC has consistently reported high patient satisfaction scores as well. Jones peers say she has a calming quality about her that serves as an asset in the emergency care center. They recall her leadership during Hurricane Irma. She was professional, kept us on plan, and worked day and night to ensure we had everything we needed to remain open and be here for the people of Northport. Thank you, Joan, for everything you do. It's so much appreciated.
My pleasure to present the Leadership Award plaque. And there's a quote on here: "If your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, and do more, and become more, you are a leader." That was said by John Quincy Adams, our 6th President of the United States. But on behalf of the hospital board and administrative staff of Sarasota Memorial Healthcare System, we present Joan Moser with the Leadership Award for the second quarter 2018, signed by David Verinder and our chairman, Joe DiVirgilio. Congratulations. And you get some swag. I noticed this is new. I like
Well, we
it.
do it at, we're a little bit off kilter. We usually do it at Management Council. Go ahead and give your speech,
Oh,
Joan.
my speech?
Yes. Here, I'll hold this for you.
Okay, great. Thank you. I really appreciate this opportunity. Appreciate my family. They're here today for all their support. And Lisa and Martina from the Northport team. We have a great team down there. Everybody works really, really well together. We have a great team. We love it down there. So thank you for the opportunity.
No, thank you.
Congratulations.
Okay, I'm going to hold on to this and give it to you at Management
Okay.
Council, and then we're going
Great.
to leave you with this.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
We can't afford it.
Tram wants a backpack, but I told him we can't afford it.
I want a
so-
backpack. Those are nice looking bags.
We'll move on. Next, we have a report of the medical staff. Dr. Garner.
No report, Mr. Chairman. It's easy. Our staff is chucking along, and we're doing great.
There you go. Well, that's fantastic. Thank you. Foundation report. We have a pinch hitter today, Kara Saunders. Kara,
Hi,
welcome.
thank you. I'm filling in for Mason Ayers today. He's on vacation. 2 things that I wanted to mention is we had an extremely successful event season, but we have not rested there. We are already gearing up for our Key to the Cure event. It is going to be Thursday, October 11th at Saks Fifth Avenue, and everybody will be purposely wearing pink attire. To date, this event has raised more than $1.5 million, and it benefits Women's Cancer Services at SMH. Another piece that I'd like to mention is our Grateful Patient Program. I know Mason has probably spoke briefly on it in the past, and we launched this program in December. And to date, we have raised more than $7,000 from grateful patients. And the Give Gratitude Grateful Patient Program has given patients an opportunity to recognize caregivers at the hospital, and they can show their appreciation for the outstanding staff. They can inspire patients and family members to share their stories about their time at SMH. And we really want to encourage them to make a gift to the Healthcare Foundation in honor of that caregiver. And the foundation gives this money back to the hospital for facilities, upgrading technology, equipment, and continue providing that margin of excellence in healthcare for our community.
Great.
That's it.
All right. Well, Kara, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Next, we have our secretary's report. Tram.
Right, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to announce that we'll have a meeting on July the 16th, beginning at 9 a.m. The Finance Committee will meet at 10:30. The Quality Committee will meet, and between noon and 12:30, the peer review will be conducted. And at 12:30, we will do the financial review and conclude that day at 2 o'clock here in this room for our public board meeting. That's all I have to report.
All right. Thank you, Tram. Next up, we have our treasurer's report. Sharon?
Yes. I move approval of the bad debts and charity care for the month ended May 31st, 2018, in the amount of $15,126,000.
Do we have a second? We have a second. Any questions, comments? All those in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. All right. Anything else, Sharon?
No, that's end of my report.
All right, excellent, thank you. All right, we move on to financial highlights for the month, and Bill Wojcik, Chief CFO.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. These are the financial highlights for May, and we'll start out with operating revenue for the system. For the month of May, operating revenue totaled $77,006,000 compared to a budget of $67,757,000. Fiscal year to date, which is 8 months into our fiscal year, $582,082,082,000 with a compared to a budget of $530,995,000. Total expenses for the system for the month of May, $66,599,000 compared to a budget of $66,512,000. Fiscal year to date, total expenses of $536,188,000 compared to a budget of $523,722,000. Looking at the system's operating income in the rating agency format, for the month of May, $13,681,000, which generated operating margin of 16.8%. This compares favorably to the budget of $4,595,000, which was a budgeted operating margin of 6.4%. Fiscal year to date, again, this is through 8 months, operating income of $72,014,000, which is an operating margin of 11.7%. Comparing again favorably to the budget of $34,078,000, we had a budgeted operating margin of 6%. For hospital statistics, and these are fiscal year-to-date numbers, average daily occupancy, 535, compared to a budget of 536. Admissions, 24,692. compared to a budget of 23,692. And so far this year, our actual average acute length of stay is 4.48 days, and last year at this time it was 4.5 days. The hospital surgery statistics, again through 8 months of this fiscal year, 15,915, compared to a budget of 15,778. And so far this fiscal year, we've had 2,325 births compared to a budget of 2,438 births. Our outpatient registrations for the hospital through 8 months, 317,416 compared to a budget of 307,685. And between our 2 emergency care centers, we've had 85,136 registrations compared to a budget of 85,844. And so far this fiscal year, our case mix index for all patients stands at 1.87, and for Medicare patients, 1.94. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report unless there's any questions.
Any questions? All righty. Thank you, Bill. Committee reports. Our HR committee, Tram Hudson.
Mr. Chairman, the HR committee met this morning at 9 o'clock, and we had a long hour-and-a-half meeting, discussed a number of different areas in HR. Laurie Bennett, the Executive Director of Human Resources, gave an update on employee acquisition, retention, and development strategies. Mrs. Bennett discussed the challenges of hiring and retaining employees given the rapid growth of our system due to competition with other industries and a low regional and national unemployment rate. The system, our hospital system, is forecasting a 15% growth in employees over the next 5 years. This will coincide with the development of the Cancer Institute and the Venice Hospital. We also discussed the challenges in trying to provide the employees for that growth given the limited talent pool in our area, particularly with the low unemployment numbers. Additionally, we discussed employee retention and staff and leader development, which is going to be crucial to growing the skills necessary to accomplish the health system's strategic initiatives in the next decade. We also had a discussion about how important it is that we inculcate in our employees and those that we recruit of SMH's success due to our culture, particularly as we experience this exponential growth. There was no other business to be brought before the committee.
Well, thank you. Any questions? All right, let's move on to the Finance Committee. Jim Meister, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Finance Committee met this morning. The minutes of the March 19, 2018 meeting of the Finance Committee were approved. A proposal for the replacement of operating room number 21, which is 24 years old, was presented by David Patterson, our Assistant Chief Nursing Officer, and Jim Young, our Senior Manager of Surgical Services. The project will result in a redesigned room and updated technology to provide noise and radiation reduction for patients and staff, and the removal of an existing ante-room to increase room size and provide a safer environment for patients and staff. The new equipment will hang from ceiling booms, which will remove equipment from the floor and thereby provide a more safe and sterile environment. This project is part of a multi-year plan to upgrade several of our operating rooms. The project is budgeted to cost $2,640,000, and I'd like to propose a motion, if I may.
Please.
I move approval of the funding for the renovation of operating room 21 to include the purchase of new equipment and construction as budgeted in the year 2018 in the amount of not to exceed $2,640,000 as recommended by the Finance Committee.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and second. Any questions, comments? All those in favor of the resolution, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. All righty. Motion passes. Thank you.
To continue, if I may, Bill Volgen, our CFO, gave a presentation to form the committee on the factors he and his finance team look at in the development of our plan of finance for the Cancer Institute and SMH Laurel Road projects. The district plans to self-fund a large portion of the cost of these projects, but will also need to borrow approximately $300 million for construction funds. Ponder and Company has been selected as our financial advisor, and the investment banking firms of J.P. Morgan and Citicorp have been selected as underwriters. The finance team will consider bond market conditions, the district debt profile, opportunities to lower cost of capital, and the timing of borrowing funds. The team expects to present a plan of finance at the July Finance Committee meeting. Market interest rates are currently low, and the district enjoys a strong credit rating. Demand for our bonds is expected to be very strong. One opportunity Mr. Volgen presented to the committee is the ability for the district to do a cash defiance of the 2009 A bonds, which currently have an average coupon rate of approximately 5.6%. Based on the current market conditions and expectations of future rates, borrowing rates for the new project is expected to be substantially lower. The 209A bonds are callable on July 1st, 2019. The team expects to present a plan of finance at the July finance meeting. Bill Volgen, our CFO, presented a request for authorization of a cash defiance. How do you pronounce it? Anyway.
Defeasance.
Thank you. Of the remaining 2009A bonds, the principal of which is currently $79,085,000 at a date to be determined by management. Current market rates would have to increase by approximately 150 basis points in order to erase the benefit of this. The defiance? Defiance.
It's one of those days.
Sorry,
Jim. I know, I
no,
got
it's
it.
a hard word. Of the 2009 A bombs will reduce interest rates, interest expense while still maintaining a strong level of days cash on hand. And I'd ask our Chief Legal Officer to read the resolution.
This is a resolution titled, "A Resolution Authorizing and Approving the Defeasance and Redemption of the Outstanding Sarasota County Public Hospital District Fixed-Rate Hospital Revenue Bonds, Sarasota Memorial Hospital Project, Series 2009A, from available revenues of the district, authorizing and approving the execution and delivery of an escrow deposit agreement in connection with such defeasance, appointing an escrow agent and verification agent, providing for payment of the fees and expenses associated therewith, and providing for an effective date. Whereas the Sarasota County Public Hospital District, the quote, district, close quote, is a body corporate established pursuant to Chapter 2003-359 Laws of Florida as amended, the quote, act, close quote, and whereas the district, through the Sarasota County Public Hospital Board as the governing body of the district, the quote, board, close quote, is authorized by the act, among other things, to provide from time to time, at one time or from time to time, for the issuance of revenue bonds of the district for the purpose of financing or refinancing the cost of acquisition and construction of extensions and additions to any hospital buildings and facilities of the district, together with equipment required in connection therewith, and to take all other actions necessary in connection therewith, and whereas the district, acting by and through the board, entered into a master indenture dated as of September 1, 1996 with Wachovia Bank National Association, formerly known as First Union National Bank, as master trustee, the quote, master trustee, close quote, as supplemented and amended, the quote, master indenture, close quote, which governs the issuance from time to time of indebtedness of the district. And whereas pursuant to a trust agreement dated as of August 1, 2009, between the district and U.S. Bank National Association as bond trustee, the quote, 2009A trust agreement, close quote, the district has previously issued its fixed-rate hospital revenue bonds, Sarasota Memorial Hospital Project Series 2009A, the quote, Series 2009A bonds, close quote, of which the aggregate principal amount of $79,085,000 remains outstanding under the 2009A trust agreement. And whereas the board desires to authorize and approve, one, the defeasance and redemption of all or a portion of the outstanding Series 2009A bonds from available revenues of the district, collectively the quote, redemption, close quote. Two, the payment of any and all costs associated with the redemption. And three, such other action as may be necessary or incidental in connection with the foregoing. And whereas there has been presented at this meeting a draft escrow deposit agreement to be dated the date of the defeasance of the Series 2009A bonds by and between the board and U.S. Bank National Association as bond trustee and escrow agent, the quote, escrow deposit agreement, close quote. Now therefore the Sarasota County Public Hospital Board does hereby resolve as follows. Section 1. Capitalized words and terms used in this resolution and not defined herein shall have the same meanings in this resolution as such words and terms are given in the escrow deposit agreement. Section 2, the defeasance of all or a portion of the outstanding Series 2009A bonds as described herein and in the escrow deposit agreement, and the application and use of sufficient and available revenues of the district to such defeasance is hereby authorized and approved. The board does hereby authorize and approve the execution by the chair and the delivery of an escrow deposit agreement, the quote, escrow deposit agreement, close quote, between the board and U.S. Bank National Association as bond trustee and escrow agent. The escrow deposit agreement shall be in substantially the form presented at this meeting with such changes, insertions, and omissions, and such filling in of blanks as may be approved and made by the chair. The chair's execution of the escrow deposit agreement shall constitute conclusive evidence of the chair's approval of said escrow deposit agreement as executed, and any changes, insertions, and omissions, and filling in of blanks. Section 3, U.S. Bank National Association is hereby appointed escrow agent under the escrow deposit agreement. The board hereby delegates to the chief financial officer the authority to select a verification agent with respect to the Series 2009A bonds. The fees and expenses of the escrow agent and verification agent are hereby authorized to be paid. The board designates the chairman, vice chairman, and secretary of the board, as well as the president and chief financial officer of the system, each as designated officers of the district and board for purposes of this resolution. Section 4. Each designated officer is hereby authorized and directed without limitation except as may be expressly set forth herein to take such actions and to execute and deliver any such documents, certificates, undertakings, agreements, or other instruments as such officer, with the advice of counsel, may deem necessary or appropriate to effect the transactions contemplated by this resolution. Section 5. in case any one or more of the provisions of this resolution or of any agreement, document, or instrument executed and delivered in connection herewith shall for any reason be held to be illegal or invalid, such illegality or invalidity shall not affect any other provision of this resolution or of any such agreement, document, or instrument. But this resolution and any such agreement, document, or instrument shall be construed and enforced as if such illegal or invalid provision had not been contained therein. Section 6, this resolution shall take effect immediately upon passage, and that would be considered passed and adopted by the Sarasota County Public Hospital Board this day of June, and will be signed by Joe D. Virgilio as chair and Mr. Hudson as board secretary.
I move approval of the resolution regarding the defeasance of the Series 2009 A bonds as published and as recommended by the Finance Committee.
Have a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments? All those in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. All right. The resolution and motion passes.
Yeah, well done.
All right.
Nelson Lane, our controller, presented information on the renewal of the system's insurance coverage for the policy year April 16, 2018 through April 15, 2019. Participation in the Florida Hospital Risk Alliance has permitted optimal pricing of named windstorm coverage. Property insurance has been renewed with similar coverage at a rate per insurable value similar to the prior year. Our insurance coverage has been renewed at a coverage and rate similar to last year. Lastly, the committee was provided a copy of the April edition of Moody's Healthcare Quarterly, which featured articles covering developments in the various sectors of the healthcare industry. And Mr. Chairman, this concludes my report.
Jim, thank you very much. All right, we'll move on now to the President's report. David.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to start, as I always do, with our organizational report card. This is for activity through fiscal year to date through May 2018. Look at our HCAP scores. We have a goal of being 8 out of 11 of the domains at the 50th percentile or greater. We are a little bit low on that. We're at 6 out of 11 right now, and I'll show you the detail on that here in a minute. On the outpatient side, we have a goal of being 55 out of 58 of the domains at greater than or equal to 50th percentile. I'm happy to report we are meeting goal on that and at 55 out of 58. In the people pillar, we have a goal of turnover of our part-time and full-time staff that have been hired within the last 12 months being 25% or less in turnover, and I'm happy to report we are exceeding that and have made good progress there. We're currently at 23.88%. In the quality pillar, which is our goal is our infection prevention, which is the combined overall standardized infection rate of being less than 0.95. We are really doing very well there at 0.81. And when you consider the national average are expected to be 1.0, we're significantly lower than that. On the finance pillar, we heard our financial report by our CFO, Bill Wojcik, just a little bit ago. We have our goal is having our operating margin at 5.4% or higher, which is our budget this year. Currently we are projecting that to be at 9.3%. In the growth pillar, we have our strategic growth organizational goal. The first one is our inpatient admissions and observation patients being at 43,429 for the year. I'm happy to report we're exceeding that at 44,265. And our outpatient registrations has a goal of 789,301. We are projecting it to exceed that as well by 800,728. So when we look at the detail of our HCAPS report card, we do see that we have a 6 out of 11 on here. We are missing 5 of the remainder of those being the 5 that we are missing. Responsiveness to hospital staff is communication with physicians, cleanliness of the hospital environment, quietness of the hospital environment, and communication about medicines. I can tell you that our teams, being led by Lori Lang and our Chief Nursing Officer, Connie Anderson, are doing quite a bit of work on these and have good plans in place and are making improvements as we come out of season. More to follow. When we look at our service pillar, We start with our Sarasota Memorial partners with Sarasota Military Academy on oncology internships. Sarasota Memorial's Cancer Institute team recognized high school students from the Sarasota Military Academy who helped pilot a new oncology internship program at the hospital. Goal was to provide a unique and insightful experience that helps students discover and shape their individual career goals. And I'd like to thank our own Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Fiorica, for mentoring this and providing this opportunity for these students. So I appreciate it, Dr. Fiorica. Staying in quality, survey confirms Sarasota Memorial's quality and safety. Congratulations to staff for their great work during the recent Joint Commission reaccreditation survey. The accreditation occurs every 3 years and certifies hospitals are in compliance with national regulatory standards. Our surveyors had high praise for the organization, describing SMH as superlative and extremely safe hospital. They cited a number of Sarasota Memorial programs as best practices and should be shared around the nation. And want to thank our Mary Gary, who's our Executive Director over Quality, for her leadership, and Dr. Fiorica once again for his getting us through this.
David, just please express the board's gratitude, because that's an exceptional report. And
We absolutely will, and I appreciate those comments, and so are our staff. Staying in quality, our nursing units once again earned a prestigious national awards for care. Sarasota Memorial's critical care and cardiac acute and progressive units recently earned their second Beacon Awards for excellence from the American Association of Critical Care Nurses. Cardiac acute earned a Gold Beacon Award, the highest level. The SMH unit is one of only 2 progressive care units in Florida to earn the honor. Critical care received its second silver level award and is one of only 9 such units in Florida to earn this honor. So Connie, please thank your staff for that. Staying in quality, consumer reports. We were listed in a recent top hospital report. Sarasota Memorial is one of only 18 hospitals in the United States to earn top scores in both bypass surgery and aortic valve replacement surgery, according to a July 2018 Consumer Report study. Publication rated hospital complications, mortality, and other factors. So thanks to all of our staff in there that made that possible. In our people, we celebrate our cancer survivors. Sarasota Memorial, along with Sarasota Memorial Healthcare Foundation, served once again as a community partner for the area's recent National Cancer Survivor Celebration. So you can see some of the pictures there, and appreciate everybody's participation. We were also named a top workplace for commuters. Sarasota Memorial was recognized as a 2018 National Best Workplace for Commuters at a recent Sarasota County Commission meeting. The hospital was one of the several local organizations awarded for their efforts to offer commuter benefits, including promoting carpooling, bicycling to work, and the use of public transportation. And you can see our Human Resources Department receiving that award at the County Commission meeting. Staying in people, Goodwill recognizes our staff donations. Sarasota Memorial's recent spring cleaning clothes drive for Goodwill, Minnesota, was a resounding success, with staff donating 733 pounds of clothing. The donations will help stock the hospital's clothes closet, which provides shirts, pants, and shoes to patients that are in need. Goodwill presented Sarasota Memorial with a community partner plaque thanking staff for their contributions. It's that time of year where students are going to go back to school and play in sports, and so every year we make availability our urgent care centers to offer school physicals for school-age kids for $20. Those are available at all 6 locations and 7 days a week from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. In the growth section, our parking expansion is underway. Work is continuing on Sarasota Memorial's new 583-space parking garage, which is scheduled to open early December 2018. We just want to once again thank all of our employees who have volunteered to park off-site and take the shuttle in every day. And I'm just going to send you the message. We're going to add 583 spaces and open up some more parking on campus. In the growth section, we had our endocrinologist joins First Physicians Group, Robert Dublin, who is a multi-board certified in endocrinology, diabetes, metabolism, and obesity medicine, recently joined First Physician Group's practice on Venice Avenue. And Mr. Chair, that is my report. I'd be glad to answer any questions.
You have any questions for David? David, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Consent agenda, I don't think we have anything. Any public comments? All right, legal matters.
Y'all want me to read something else out loud?
Do we get to vote? All righty. Any other business for this group? Otherwise, we stand adjourned. Thank you, everyone.